Hello there, my lovely jewelry makers. I'm Christina at CSLdesigns, and in today's tutorial I'm going to show you how to make these super quick and easy macrame bracelets that make really cute friendship bracelets as well. For the clasp I ended up making a button and loop closure, so I'm using a shank button which can also add a nice detail. And anyone will be able to make this bracelet here, so if you want to learn how to make it, then stay tuned. So these are the materials that we're going to need. Now first of all, the cord that I'm using is this c-lon. That's just what I'm demonstrating with. You could use other cords like satin cord as well, that's completely up to you. And then the beads that I'm using here are these 4mm copper metal spacer beads. And you can use whatever beads you want to just make sure the holes are large enough for your cord to go through. And finally here I have a shank button that I'm going to be using to make the button and loop closure. Now I'm going to have all the materials in the description box below along with any links you might need as well. So let's get all the materials ready and let's get started. And then we'll need to cut a couple lengths of our cord. So first of all I have a length of about 75 centimeters. And then we also need another length, and this one is about 2.5 meters. So to begin with here I'm going to be working on my mini macrame board just to make it easier. And then what I'm going to do is take the short length first, and I want to find where the midpoint is. So I'm just going to put the two ends together like that, and then I have my midpoint down here in my loop. I'm just going to hold on to that, and I just want to attach this on my board, and I just want the midpoint of the cord to basically be in about the middle of the board there. So I'm just attaching this. It's just so I know where to start making some knots. So you can just use these notches around the edges to keep the cord in check basically. And then it's on there nice and securely. So like I said, I'm just using this to start out with because I'm going to be making the loop first of all. And now I have that cord attached. So to start making the knots, we then need to take the longer length of cord here, and we need to do the same thing. We need to find the midpoint of that. So again, I put the ends together just to find that midpoint. I have that here where my loop is, and I'm just going to hold on to this for now. And I then take that loop and I'm going to bring it from above the top there and then bring it underneath the cord that's on the board already, and my loop is now coming out of the bottom there. I then open up, put my fingers through, grab the ends of the cord and pull them through just like this, and then pull the cord down. So now we've used a lark's head knot to attach this cord here, and I'm just going to make sure that then this sits in the middle of the cord that's already on the board. So the cord is now attached here, and this is also the beginning part of the loop that we're going to be making, but we obviously need to make a few more knots. And to do that I'm going to be using one length of these cords here at a time. Now what you'll find is from this knot they're going to be naturally coming out to each their own side. So the one that's coming towards the right here, I'm just going to use that on the right side and start with that. The other one you can just put out of the way. So I'm going to take that cord, bring it over the holding cord, back underneath there, and then make sure to bring it up through the loop here on the bottom, all the way through. And then we want to tighten this to sit next to the lark's head knot where we attached the cord originally. Then, using the same cord, I now need to do the opposite. So I now need to come from below here and bring it underneath. And then take the cord, and then if we just pull it through there. And then we still have a loop on the bottom, but I need to bring it back over the top of the holding cord and then down through that loop. And tighten that, and now you've actually ended up with the same knot as the one we attached it with. So originally we made a lark's head knot, and this is a vertical lark's head knot because we're just using one length to make the knot with. So you just want to keep doing this, bring it over first and then back underneath, up through the loop, tighten, and then under, back over, and then through the loop and tighten. And that's now another knot. And just make sure they're nice and tight, push them close together there. And this is going to then keep growing knots on this side. Now we're going to make a length to fit the size loop that we want, but I don't just want to keep using this length here. So what I'm going to be doing is making half of the length that I need for the loop with this cord, and then go over to the other side and make the other half, just so we use these cords evenly. On the other side here it's the same thing. Obviously we're just working on the other side, so I'm just using my opposite hand. We bring the cord over first, then back underneath and up through the loop, and then tighten that. You can see it's now just on the other side of that initial knot, then under, back over the top and through the loop, and then pull tight. And now we've made a knot on that side. So just get the length that you need that's going to suit your button. So I now made the row of knots here and I've taken it off the board. So what I just want to show you is how you can check how many knots you need to make is by just occasionally taking it off the board if you're not sure, and then take the button that you're using, bring it together in that loop shape, and then just check the button through it. So you don't want it to be, obviously you want the button to be able to go through, so not too small, but you also don't want it to be too loose because then the button can just kind of fall out while wearing it. So this is just the perfect size. And obviously if it's not quite right, if you're still missing a few, you can always just reattach it and make some more knots. Now obviously we need to actually then make the loop and fasten it so it's going to stay in that shape. So what you can do is attach it to a board now, but I kind of like doing this a little bit just by hand, just kind of holding on to it. So first get it into that loop shape. So we'll bring the two ends together and make sure it's flat, the knots there are flat. Now what we're going to do is these two cords that are going straight down, they're the original short ones, or the short one cord there. And then we have these two coming out from the last knot on either side. And these are the long cords. So I'm going to be using the long cords as working cords and making knots around these two that are going to be the holding cords. So I'm just kind of holding it in my hand by now. Like I said, you can fasten it if you find it a little bit too fiddly. But we're just going to make a basic square knot. So I just take my left working cord, bring it over the two holding cords, and then swap hands, then take the right one over that, underneath everything, so behind the two holding cords there, and then make sure to bring it up through the loop on the other side. So it's just a basic square knot, and then fasten this all the way up. Now I just like to double check everything before I fasten it, and you just want to fasten this knot right below where the other knots are. So that's one half. We need to make the other half to make it a full square knot. So you can see already now it's going to be easier because you don't have to hold on to it up there. So start from the other side and then fasten that, tighten the knot there. Now what I then like to do is, before I move on, I like to just grab onto that square knot and just take these holding cords and just pull at them a little bit, because it just kind of straightens the loop out there, and if there's any loose cord it tightens it up nicely. So we now have the loop in place. So I've now swapped over to using my project macrame board here, and I'm also going to be using these T-pins to help hold my work in place. So what I'm going to do is, because I have a little bit of work done, I've done that loop, I can use that to attach onto this board here, and it's going to be easier to then work with. So I just take my pins, put them through the loop. Now I like to try and go between the knots instead of through the knots, just to kind of not damage the cord too much. And then that's now fastened nicely, and we can start making the actual rest of the bracelet. Now it is a super simple technique to make this bracelet here. So the two cords that are going straight down, they're constantly going to be the holding cords like I mentioned, and I'm going to start on one side. So I'm going to take the cord, in my case I'm just starting on the left, it doesn't matter what side you start with, but I'm taking the left cord and then I'm keeping hold of these two as if they were one cord basically. I'm going to bring them, or bring the left cord, the working cord, over the top of those two holding cords and then back underneath them and up through the loop here. So looking at that, you can see we kind of get a 6 where the cord is looping around the holding cords, and then tighten that and then do the same thing. So I kind of like to bring it around my finger there to bring it over the top of the cords, then back underneath and then through the loop and tighten that up. So that's now the first side. We then need to use the other cord, but before we do, we just need to add a bead as well. So I go to the end of the cord before I start to use it, and I'm just going to take one bead and add it onto the cord. And then you just want to let it drop all the way down to sit right there, because basically this bead is the perfect fit to accommodate for the knots that we just made with the other cord on the other side there. But we now need to do the same thing but with this one. So this is the right one. Again, I just swapped hands, so I'm holding on to the two holding cords with my left one now, and I'm then bringing the working cord around my finger to bring it up over the top of the holding cords, and then back underneath the two holding cords and through the loop. So you can see we're still it's still going around those holding cords as like a 6, but just mirrored. And now you just want to make sure when you tighten this that bead stays in that place until it won't go any further, because then when you tighten the bead, or the knot, sorry, the bead gets locked in place. So that's the first one. Repeat again, around your finger to go over and back underneath and through the loop, and then tighten. And that's now 2. So basically this is all there is to it. We need to do 2 on each side, so I've just done those 2. I need to swap back to the left, and now we're just adding beads in every single time before we make the knots. So take another bead, add it onto the cord before we make the knots, let it drop down, then make your knots around a finger and back underneath and through the loop, tighten that, and repeat. So we get the 2, back to the right side, just add your bead first, let it drop down, and now you can also start to see the pattern forming. And we're just constantly swapping hands as well, depending what side we're working on. So around your finger over the top, back underneath and through the loop, tighten that bead in place by tightening the knot, and do another one, which then tightens the first one in place really. And you just want to keep going like this, alternating from side to side until you have the length that you need. So I now reach the other end here, and I've got the length that I want for the beaded section. Then the final one that I have is I still have one bead left, so I just added that to the left one. That was the next one I'm due to use. But instead of doing that knot in the same way, what we're going to do is now also finish off this end. And I'm simply going to do that by making a square knot instead. So again, these two middle cords are the holding cords. I'm going to take this left cord, just make a simple square knot with it, and then use the right one as well. Make the square knot around the holding cords, just making sure that that bead stays there. Then as I tighten this, the bead is going to slot into that same place, so it kind of just continues the pattern. And then do the other half of the knot. Like that. Tighten that nicely. But we're now also in the process of finishing off this end here, and we do that more securely using the square knots. So that's one square knot. What I'm going to do is a few square knots before I actually add in the button, just to create a little bit of spacing, because you can see if I put the button on now, it's going to overlap some of the beads, which there's no need for that. So just going to make a couple more square knots here. And now I've ended up with 3 in total. So what I'm going to do now is these 2 holding cords, we're going to add a button onto that. So just take both cords through the loop in the same direction and then push it all the way up. So it's going to sit there nicely. And I'm going to then cage that button in place by doing another square knot right below it. So basically it's as if it was a bead. Just making sure that when tightening it, it goes underneath, because then it tightens around the shank on the back. Now I like to not just do one square knot here on this side of the button, because it's going to be more likely to maybe come undone, so I do 2, and it will still be hidden underneath the button, so it's not just going to be sticking out. So just finishing this one off, but you can see then the button sits there just nicely locked in place, and it's obviously going to then be used with the loop on the other end. So all that's left to do now is take this off of our board and then just finish off these ends. So to then finish off the cards here, what you can do is add glue to the last couple of square knots there after the button. If you're using a natural card, for instance, you'd want to do that. What I'm doing here is using a synthetic card, so I'm going to be singeing the ends down. So first of all, I'm going to cut off the excess cord. Now I'm not going to cut it off right where it's coming out from the knot there, but just leave about 1 millimeter or so sticking out, something like that. And then I'm going to grab a lighter, and obviously be careful because it does get hot, and then just basically melt the cord, and then you can just press it in against the button there, or the knot rather. You can also use the lighter itself to do that if you find it's going to be too hot, because what that does then, it's melted the cord down, but it's also then secured it in place, so it's not going to unravel, which is obviously normally what the glue would do if you're using a natural cord. So you just want to do the same with the rest of them. So your bracelet is now done and ready to wear. So a super quick and easy macrame bracelet that makes a really cute friendship bracelet as well. And you can of course mix and match your colours however you want to. It would also be really cute to make it longer and then make it a multi-wrap bracelet as well. But anyway, I really hope you enjoyed the tutorial for this bracelet. Don't forget to check out my channel as well. But thank you so much for watching this one, and I'll see you in the next one.